Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to Market Round number 207. Stuart Williamson here at the helm. This week, we're covering two topics, which is basically what's going on, according to the press, in the UK residential property market, i.e. what's happening with rentals. And then secondly, according to Zoopla, what's going on with the actual house prices, how they're moving around. So, straight on with it. Stuart Williamson, 207. Next week's a big one, it's 208, which is 4 years since we started this. Okay, 4 years in the depths of COVID when the old market wrap began. So anyway, let's talk. So UK rental market, what's going on? There's three interesting articles that we've gleaned from the BBC, the Telegraph and the Times. Firstly, the BBC talks about intense competition in the rental market. Now what does that mean? It means two-bed rentals listed on Zoopla are available an average of 25 days, which is 10 less than pre-pandemic. So it means there's a great shortage of properties out there. And we're going to look at what the situation is, why there is a shortage, and what's been done about it going forward. There's a high demand, strong demand and limited supply forces quick decisions for potential tenants. I don't know if you've read about it, but up in St Andrews, there was students actually camping next to letting offices before term started. And they were camping there for 48 hours to try and get in. And within the first hour of the rental office being open, the places were all taken. So that's how hard it is to get into. Okay, St Andrews is a special situation, I suppose, but it gives you a good example of what's going on in the rental market in the UK. It is very hard to get in at a quality level. In the past, I don't know if you ever rented, but I remember renting, we put down a month's rent or 2 months rent between us. Nowadays, it's standard to have a guarantor. So you must get someone to guarantor that you will pay the rent, and if you don't, they will pay it. So again, that's an indicative of what's going on in the market in the UK. And then the regional variations. Now, you may recollect last week we talked about the introduction of rent controls in Scotland. And what are rent controls supposed to do? They're supposed to control how much rents will go up by in any year. Well, currently, Scottish rents are going up by the highest of all the UK, 15% per annum. So what does that tell you about rental controls? So we're talking about the upcoming UK election, and there's been some discussions from Labour saying they might introduce some rent controls in some areas, which is normally the thin end of the wedge, which tends to lead to rent controls everywhere. If they did that, look what's happened in Scotland. Has it worked? No, it plainly hasn't. So it's not a great thing to be thinking about, but let's hope they don't do that. So that's basically the current situation, what's going on. Now, the why, as to why it's going on, we have covered again. It's about immigration. In 2022, 745,000 people came into the UK, legal immigrants. That's the equivalent of Greater Glasgow. So that's a huge amount of people, and that's happened for quite a few years running. Okay, the government is trying to curtail it now and increase the minimum earnings that people must come in on a visa. But even so, it's still £28,000 a year, which is below the national average. So you're still going to get a strong immigration. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we're not going to discuss today. It's a case of immigration does tend to help many parts of the economy. Obviously, it doesn't from a perspective of what's going on in the medical world. You've got hospitals trying to cope with more people with the same resources or less. You've got schools trying to do the same. But what has happened is that influx of immigrants has created 200,000 new rental homes in the UK. So 200,000 have been taken up by immigrants. And bearing in mind that the UK is only building 180,000 net new properties a year at the moment. They're building 250. After demolitions, it works out about 180. Basically, all the immigrants are taking up the rental properties that are coming onto the market. And what does that leave for the rest of the population? Well, nothing at all. So hence, there's a great pressure on rentals. So that's not a brilliant look, to be fair. Biggest regions affected, London, West Midlands, 11.2% on average rises. Bank of England's chief economist Hugh Pill attributes skyrocketing rents to high migration. He says it's not down to their poor monetary policy. Well, it is to a certain extent. You can't blame it all on other people. Supply issues, you've got all this problem of NIMBYs, not in my backyard. So your average Conservative voter doesn't want to get involved in that. There's a great thing in the press at the moment called Whitby Woman. And now, being from Whitby, I can tell you some Whitby women are lovely. But Whitby Woman is actually the sort of woman that they're using as the people that the Conservatives must win over. They're conservative, they don't want change, they don't want people building in their backyard, but they will vote for Conservatives. And as a short-term sticking plaster, they're willing to give Whitby Woman, which is 60 years old plus, more pension, more control over their lives. They were the people who voted for Boris to leave. Now they're thinking, well, perhaps we shouldn't have left. Yeah, but those are the people that the Conservatives are targeting to get the votes from. And that will just add more pressure onto the rental problem. Because being from Whitby, I can tell you, they would not let us build anywhere. The Green Belt was sacrosanct. So that's the way the situation is. What's caused it is basically policy that is just broken. It's not working. Immigration out of control to a certain extent. So what can be done to alleviate this? Well, apparently, according to the Times, we need to spend 250 billion more money on new properties. The current spend is 60 billion. So we're way short of what we should be doing. So the rental market is not going to get any easier in the short term. Demands versus supply. Rental prices, as I said, were up by over 10%, while supply was down by 35% since 2019. So what does all this mean really for you as a property investor? It means if you're willing to be hard and say, I'm in it for the money, then the rental market is a great market for you. And it is a good market to be buying into now. The buy-to-let market is booming, interest rates are falling, the general feeling is more positive. So the rental situation is a positive one for landlords. It's not if you're in the market. And if you're trying to get somewhere to live and you can't actually get in there and you've got to get someone to give you a guarantor, who's going to be a guarantor if you're a youngster? It's not going to happen. So that's the picture on the rental market. So let's just look for a second at what Zoopla said. They brought out their latest report yesterday on the UK house prices. And their potted summary is inflation's running at just about 0.1% down in house prices. On a city level, we're seeing from 3% falls up to 3.6% gains. And now, where are those falls and gains? Well, all the coastal locations where people ran away to during COVID are all falling in value. There's no variations on that. The places that are benefiting most are actually Belfast. That's the highest gainer. And why is Belfast doing so well? Because it has a good microcosm of an economy. It's been ring-fenced, it's benefiting from Brexit, so it's a good location to be. And also, houses are just coming out of post-financial crisis levels of cost. So it's been super cheap there for a long time, and now's a good buying opportunity. However, if you're an expatriate, don't try and buy in Northern Ireland, because there are no lenders who are lent to expats to buy in Northern Ireland that I know of. And we've looked at this a lot in detail, trying to find properties for people there. So it's a great buying opportunity, but it's got to be a cash buy or you've got to live there. What other points did Zoopla bring up this week? That basically the north-south divide is more marked than ever. Basically, if you take a line that starts in, say, York and then goes south from there, then those sort of locations are often going down in price. If you go north and you look at Leicester, Edinburgh, Blackpool, Warrington, those sort of places, they're going up in price. So you have a definite north-south difference, with Belfast at the top with the greatest growth, followed by Glasgow, Newcastle, Manchester, Sheffield. Actually, Cardiff's done quite well, which is in the south. That's probably to do with the football team, a very nice football team. Leeds are doing very well because they have got the best football team in the world. Liverpool, Birmingham, and then you get into medium ground of Leicester, and after that is Bristol and the south falling. Now, why is that? Because it went up by so much, and the same fundamentals are not there that were there before. Before, people wanted to buy in the south because that's where the business was. With the levelling up agenda going on, with the amount of spend that's going into the Midlands, into Derby, Nottingham, Birmingham, those sort of places, Sheffield, the infrastructure spend, which again is based on what was called the Red Wall. Another one is Boris Johnson things where you had to keep the votes up there by spending money on them. Well, obviously that's not going to work now and the Conservatives will lose. But it was a politically driven concept. And so the Midlands and parts of the North are really booming still with the levelling up agenda. And secondly, we're not seeing this, you have to be in the South to be successful. With the difference in working from home, not having to be in the office all the time, people can be in the North and be successful. So that's really helped the housing market. Affordability up there. If you've got a 5% loan on a property you've got a £200,000 loan on, it's a lot easier than a 5% loan on something with £450,000 that you'll have down south. So that is the basic situation. Zoopla is saying north-south divide, don't buy on the edges, and it goes back to where we say at APW, buy where it makes sense, buy where it adds up from a fiscal perspective. Will the rent cover the mortgage? With the way the rents are going, it will do for some time in places like the Midlands, South Yorkshire, parts of the Northwest. They're the places to buy, and that's where we're helping our clients do it. So there we go, 2007, market wrap over. Next week, 2008, the 4th anniversary. Hope you enjoyed it. Do like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you very much for watching.